Sierra released in 2024 a new version of their tipped GameKing, 145 grain, 6.5 millimeter. Okay, so it's supposed to be a really good one, and we're going to take a look at it here.
Pretty awesome.
Guy Miner here from UltimateReloader.com. I started using Sierra bullets back in the 1970s, varmint shooting, hunting, and eventually worked my way into shooting them in a lot of matches as well. Learned to use them very, very happily all the way out at 600 yards and beyond in shooting matches. Canada, all over the Northwest, I was shooting matches, both tactical, practical type matches before the PRS and all that, and also in hunting. I was using some Sierra bullets for that, continued doing that. In fact, I took a mule deer here just a couple of years ago with a 7mm, 160 grain soft point boat tail GameKing. It performed just splendidly. No problems whatsoever. Since those days, Sierra has come out with their tipped GameKing. Also, they refer to it time to time as the Gamechanger, which is fine by me, and it is a very interesting bullet. We've got this latest version here, which is a 145 grain, intended specifically for the 6.5 PRC cartridge, but of course it also works in all the other 6.5 cartridges out there, and there's a bunch of them. So let's take a look at it. So this bullet was introduced in 2024 by Sierra as an all-round North American game hunting bullet. I got a hold of Sierra and asked them some questions about the specific purpose for this bullet. They were adamant that it had been set up for the PRC more than the Creedmoor. The PRC has higher powder capacity, higher velocity, about 200 feet per second faster most of the time than the Creedmoor loads. And that makes this bullet with its high BC a very interesting proposition because you're kicking it out there a little faster than the Creedmoor can, quite a bit faster, and it's heavier, longer, higher BC. That leads me to start thinking some longish range scenarios, maybe hunting out in Wyoming, the Great Plains, maybe across some canyons or what have you. The tipped GameKings are known for having a very strong jacket. It helps hold them together pretty good. And then of course that tip on the front helps give them a very long, streamlined, high BC. This is rated with a .597 G1 BC. You couple that with the velocity that's inherent to a 6.5 PRC or some other higher velocity 6.5 cartridge, and you do have yourself the potential for a really good long-range capability. Asked Sierra, I said, so how big a game can we take a look at using this on? And I got back a very confident reply that it was meant all the way up, including big bull elk. And I said, excellent, okay. Then I also wanted to know, well, how low a velocity will it expand at? And the answer I got back was, if we're talking a rib cage shot going into the lungs, typical good killing shot for big game, 1,800 feet per second is their recommended minimum for that. It can go a little bit slower and still expand if you're going to punch it through bone, through the shoulder blades or something on those lines. That's what I was told by Sierra, and I was impressed by that because elk, especially a big bull elk, that has got some of the strongest muscles and the densest bone of animals in North America. Very, very tough, strong animal, and good penetration is mandatory to take those things down ethically, cleanly, make a good kill. So some quick facts about the 145 grain 6.5 millimeter Sierra tipped GameKing. This thing 145 grains, and that's in there on the upper end of hunting bullets these days for 6.5. You've got some that are considerably heavier, but I think most people seem to be hunting with roughly 140, 145 grain and lower. So this is up there at the kind of top end of that. Still a good medium range type bullet in that weight class. .597 is a really high G1 BC. That is incredible to me. I've hunted most of my game with BC bullets that were in the .4s, one kind or another. Needs a 1 in 8 twist. Nothing wrong with going a little faster than that too. Don't try and shoot this big long bullet in an old slow twist barrel if you've got. Luckily the 6.5s typically have good fast twist barrels, and this bullet is well suited for that. So when you think of powders for use in the 6.5 PRC and this 145 grain Sierra Tipped GameKing bullet, you are going to want to be thinking slow burning powders. Things like LRT, Retumbo, Magnum, MagPro, things along those lines. And that's going to get you up in that 2850, 2900, and maybe even up above 2900 feet per second out of a standard 24-inch hunting rifle barrel. Yeah, pretty impressive. So there you're coupling that .597 BC with 2,900 foot per second muzzle velocity, and now you know we're talking good long-range capability if the shooter and rifle are up to it. All the shooting I did for this article was with the Bergara B14 Wilderness HMR. You've seen this on our channel before, and it's a good rifle. It is a rifle intended for precision shooting, but also as a hunting rifle. It's got an adjustable stock, adjustable comb, adjustable length of pull. It's got a very ergonomic shape to it and a good solid feel for it. I like the flush cups for the sling swivels. We've put a rail here on the bottom, and we've got ourselves a good place to put a bipod. Looks like we're sporting one of Eric Cortina's nice tuner brakes up here in the front, which I kind of like that. That's pretty neat addition to that. The rifle itself does come with a muzzle brake though. It's a good rifle for those longer range shots, and you'll probably see it again on some future videos. Gavin wanted to demonstrate the accuracy that this bullet is capable of, so he went with one of his rifles that he built a few months ago. It's a 6.5 Creed, and it's in that Foundation Samson stock. He put a lot into this rifle, and it is accurate. So it's got a 26-inch Southern Precision Rifles bug holes barrel, 26 inches, and he took that thing out, and he loaded some ammo up for that Creedmoor with H4350 and went for it and produced just some really good results on target, demonstrating the accuracy capability of this hunting bullet from Sierra.
That's pretty awesome.
You can see here on this target, that's 5 shots at 100 yards, and I'm impressed. I'd say the bullet can shoot. You can see the details on his Samson build in another article that we did a few months ago. So I worked up some hunting type loads for this rifle, a little bit at a time, going up a half a grain increments up to the book max of 58.5 grains of MagPro. MagPro is a really nice powder to work with. We've used it quite a bit here lately, particularly in the Magnum type cartridges. Imagine that. It meters through the powder measure superbly. You can throw consistent charges very easily on just a manual powder measure, and pretty doggone nice tight SDs and ES figures as we're at the range running over a chronograph. Now, mind you, when you take a look at these figures, these were very short strings of fire. I was working my way up in the loads, and so I wasn't shooting a lot of any one load. I really wanted to just figure out what the average velocity was, and then go ahead and get the extreme spread and the standard deviation as well. So we got that, and some pretty nice tight ones on there, and I was impressed. When we got up to the maximum, we were at an even 2,900 feet per second, which for me, with this bullet and this kind of a high BC, it should work out really well. So with that muzzle velocity of 2,900 feet per second, I ran an online ballistics calculator and took a look at it all the way out to 600 yards. 600 yards, a lot of guys agree that they can do that with their precision rifle on game. Some people push farther than that, but I thought 600 yards sounds like a pretty reasonable distance if the rifleman is up to it, and his optics and his rifle and his ammunition. If everything's perfect and you don't have a big huge crosswind to deal with, 600 is not that hard to do. I haven't taken a game that far out. Shot a lot of targets out there at 600 and beyond though. But let's take a look at this. We start out at 2,900, and by the time we're at 300 yards, it's at 2,467 feet per second. That's still moving right along. 400, 2,331, and then 500, even 2,200, and 600 yards, still almost 2,100 feet per second. That is moving right along out there, and we're still going to be looking at very good terminal performance from this bullet. It should open up well, it should penetrate well, and do a good job for you all the way out there. Then, we wanted to add something we haven't done in a while. We wanted to go ahead and do a gel block test for penetration and expansion. And I didn't want to slam this bullet into them at muzzle velocity, but we wanted to see what would it expand like out there at 300 or 400 yards or 500 yards. So I used a powder we don't use very often, Accurate 5744. And lowered it down quite a bit, and we got an average velocity of 2,380 feet per second, which is roughly what this bullet will have slowed to all the way out at 400 yards. And that's what we fired into our gel blocks. We were about, I don't know, 10 yards or something on those lines, and with the muzzle velocity calmed down to 2,380 feet per second, again for that 400 yard simulation that this is performance that we could expect out there. I like using the gel blocks. They show us a lot about the penetration, the expansion, the temporary wound cavity. It's just kind of interesting, and if you haven't seen too many of these before, you can see where right where it enters here, it goes in with very little expansion at first, and we're starting to see pieces of the plastic tip breaking off, and then you see a little bit of copper coming off it through this whole area. The black, there is some kind of a combustion that happens with that bullet going in there at over 2,000 feet per second and hitting these gel blocks, and we actually get smoke coming out of these gel blocks sometimes. So that's what the black is actually burning in there on that. And it continues on in. The gel block is 16 inches, and we move on into the next clear ballistics gel block, and we have a much narrower penetration, not expanding much more. It's already slowed down quite a bit. That initial big shock is over with, and it's continuing on. Looks like the bullet's in pretty good shape here. It's 21 inches in, and I'm going to go ahead and take it out, and then we're going to weigh it and measure it. One nicely expanded Sierra Tipped GameKing. Let's weigh it and measure it. Okay, let's see what the recovered bullet weighs. Looks like 112.9. Call it 113 grains. Okay, out of 145, that's pretty good. 21 inches of penetration, 113 grains, very nicely expanded, even at 2,380 feet per second. Looks like we are at, almost 6/10 of an inch. Wow, over a ½ inch expansion there. A little bit wider here. If we look at it that way, yeah, a little over 6, about 0.642. That's a lot of expansion from a little bullet like that. I'm impressed. So we've got penetration, expansion, and pretty decent weight retention. It looks to me like from the size of that temporary wound cavity and then this kind of terminal performance, I think we're looking at what should be a pretty doggone good hunting bullet. So in conclusion, after we took a look at this bullet in 2 different cartridges, 2 different rifles, different loads, shooting at different ranges, getting the accuracy, getting the penetration test, I think we've got some good conclusions here that we can come to. Accuracy, absolutely. Look at what Gavin did on those targets with a really good rifle, and he used that to see what the bullet was really capable of when we know the rifle is excellent. I went ahead and did the penetration and expansion tests and some velocity tests with the 6.5 PRC out of the Bergara. That worked out really well. I was impressed with this little bullet, 145 grain, Tipped GameKing. Looks like it has expanded nicely, penetrated nicely, retained a decent amount of weight. I would say that's a testimony to the thicker, heavier, stronger bullet jacket that Sierra is using on these GameKings, these tipped GameKings. The high BC impresses me, 0.597. That's a lot for a hunting bullet, that really is. And I will take, after all this testing, I will take Sierra's word for it that this is an elk-capable bullet. Mind you, it's all really down to shot placement. Got to put it where it counts. And that's our job as hunters and shooters, to make sure we put that bullet where it belongs. Put a good bullet like this where it belongs and go tag your game. Not a problem. I like that they've got it rated down to expanding all the way down to 1,800 feet per second with a long shot. That's nice to know. That means if you've got everything in your favor and you had to take that long shot, you can count on some good results out there. Obviously, we did it in just 2 cartridges, the 6.5 Creed and the 6.5 PRC. There's a bunch of really neat 6.5 cartridges out there. You've got the good old 260 Remington, the 6.5 by 55, which is the one that started all way back when. 6.5 RPM Weatherby cartridge for even more zip. There's a whole bunch of them out there, and I think that this is a bullet that could find itself at home in any of those. What I want to know is, have you used this 145 grain 6.5 tipped GameKing bullet on targets or in hunting yet? I'd love to hear about it in actual hunting scenarios. And if so, how's that working out for you? Drop a comment and we'll have a discussion. That means it's time to wrap this up.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching Ultimate Reloader on TV and want to take advantage of free resources, exclusives, and hot deals, just hold your camera phone up to the QR code, tap on the link, fill out the information, boom, you're getting Ultimate Reloader emails. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. Thanks again for watching.